Hey guys, it's Hink here. Today I'm going to be talking about my weight loss journey. I went down from about 236 down to about 206, and you can see how dramatic of a difference that made, and I want to explain how I did that for you today. And so, first of all, how I did it was, I put my mind to it, guys. I know it sounds so silly, but over the past 3 years when all this stuff has started in the world, honestly, I got kind of depressed and the gym shut down, and I was like, well, what is it all worth anyways? And so I kind of started eating whatever I wanted to eat. So the first thing I did was realize that I'm going to make a change, and I just decided that this was the time, and I put my mind to it. I stopped making excuses, okay? Basically what it comes down to is eating less and moving more. There's some very, very stupid people who will argue that it's not calories in, calories out, but it's as simple as that. It's calories in, calories out. Most important to me for my weight loss journey was cardio, and so I made a point during the week to do about 20 minutes of cardio Monday through Friday every day. And so usually that was in the form of an elliptical because, guys, I'm an old man, okay? And my joints are bad. And so doing things like jogging is bad for me. Even playing basketball is hard on my joints now. I would do the elliptical for about 20 minutes a day. And this was typically after I did about 30 to 45 minutes of resistance training. Then on the weekends, I would do fasted cardio. I would wake up in the mornings and I would do about a 45-minute Peloton ride. Now, during these rides, I went very hard, okay? I went very hard in the paint, and I would end up burning about 800 kilocalories. And that's not based on like my Apple Watch heart monitor. It's like, no, my actual readout on the Peloton based on the wattage and the actual work that I put forth. So I would go really, really hard burning off these calories. I'm not gonna go like hot tank Hink here, but like a lot of people think that like weightlifting burns calories. Like, yeah, it does burn calories. It just doesn't burn that much, guys. And so like if you look at, here are some recommendations. I'll put them down below. It's actually from the American College of Sports Medicine, and it recommends 150 minutes of cardio per week with strength training at least 2 days per week, okay? You are not gonna burn as many calories, even on a heavy leg day, guys. I know some of you guys are like even power lifters. It doesn't burn that many calories. You do a set of like maybe 10, especially if you guys are like lifting heavy. It's like 3 to 5, and then you rest for like 5 minutes, guys. It's not burning that many calories. You'd be better off going for a walk. But that being said, building muscle is important. The more muscle mass you have, the higher your metabolism at baseline and the more calories you can burn at rest. And so I do think it's a mix of basically gaining muscle and losing weight. And sometimes you can do that at the same time. For me, I knew that I was very fat. My body fat percentage went up from about basically 20%, where normally I'm down in like close to the 10% range. And so I just wanted to drop fat. And so what I wanted to focus on was being in a calorie deficit. And that's why I increased my cardio so much in proportion to my weightlifting. And so, guys, one of the biggest things for me is that the more lean you are, the bigger your muscles are going to look, okay? Like for me, I'll put up some pictures here, but you can see that, like, I don't know, maybe to, of course not to somebody like that's on steroids or something. Guys, I'm a natural 40-year-old man. Like, what do you expect? I think it's pretty good for me, but you can see that like my muscles look like they're popping, even though when I would wear like a regular t-shirt or maybe even a shirt like this, I probably wouldn't look that big. But when I take off my shirt and you see my definition, you're like, wow, that guy's pretty jacked, in my opinion. And so the leaner you are, the more your muscles are going to show. And so for me, it was far more important to be lean than to be like, oh, look at me, I'm so big and strong, I'm so tough. Like, I would rather be lean and I would be peeled. And at least the woman in my life, she appreciates a more aesthetic, a more lean look. And in general, I'm sure some of you guys are going to argue about this, but it is healthier to be at a lower body weight, within reason. But to carry a bunch of extra weight, it just makes your body work harder, guys. And so I want it to be lean, especially as I'm getting older in age. Another thing is that I always got it done, guys, and I'll put a little clip up here, but like I even had this little mini stair stepper in my office to make sure that no matter what, I was able to get my cardio in, and I even had some free weights, some like adjustable dumbbells, and even some resistance bands that I could use in my office. I had a little hanger up above my door where I would do like tricep pull downs and whatnot, but I was done with the excuses. No matter what, I was going to get the work in, and I did. One of the biggest things that worked for me was fasting. Fasting is not for everybody, guys. Some guys swear by keto, some guys swear by carnivore. Find a diet that works for you and do it. For me personally, it was fasting, and I'll tell you why, and it's based on science. Dr. Andrew Huberman, okay, he has a podcast you all know, and I'll try to link this podcast below. He talked all about how fasting is actually good for burning fat, okay, in a couple of different ways. The first study that looked at actually doing 90 minutes of exercise, and at the end of the 90 minutes or towards those 90 minutes, you actually go into a more fat burning metabolism, okay? So you're gonna burn more fat than if you were to have, be drinking Gatorade or something during the workout. The next study he talks about is actually if you do more high intensity weightlifting. So for me, I would do like big supersets. And so for like back and biceps was one day for me. And so I would do like lat pull downs, and then I would do like rear delts, and then I would do bicep curls, and then I would do abs. That was like one set. And so when you do more intense exercise like that, I would do that for 30 to 45 minutes, and then I would switch to cardio. Studies have shown that you actually burn more fat. You target more fat burning when you use that approach. And so I used both of those approaches, basically fasting, doing high intensity like resistance training, and then doing cardio. And honestly, I think that's part of the reason why like the fat kind of like melted off of me, for lack of a better word. So what was my like fasting routine? For me, guys, I like to keep it simple. I would fast from 5 p.m. until 5 p.m. I would drink a lot of water during the day, and I would consume things like electrolytes. Like sometimes I would even just take like a packet of salt and just tear it open and like consume it, because number one, salt can actually help with actually energy, appetite suppression, and just generally like making you feel more satiated even when you're fasting. But also because I would lose a lot of electrolytes sweating, and I didn't want to get like dehydrated basically from those lack of electrolytes and go into an electrolyte imbalance. I would probably drink at least about 1.5 gallons of water, maybe even 2 on the days that I would fasting. And I would also frequently consume just like run-of-the-mill table salt when I would fast throughout the day. Part of the reason why I personally like fasting is, number one, it's worked for me before. I put on a bunch of weight and I wasn't happy back in like the 2010s, and I fasted for like 3 months, and once again I was able to melt it right off. I do think I have some pretty good baseline genetics, guys, so just once again figure out what works for you. But one of the things is that there's evidence, and I'll put the study here, that actually fasting can lead to increased levels of growth hormone. For me personally, when I fast, now this might just be placebo, but I feel like I get mental clarity. I like the extra time that I have. Instead of like trying to eat lunch, I just skip lunch and I can like work through lunch or have a free like 30-minute break to do something that I want. Most important for me is, like, they say that the best like the best seasoning is like starvation, basically. If you guys have never tried fasted and then you go and you eat a meal, like, it's gonna be the best meal you've ever eaten, guys. Like, you know, even when some of you have been like really, really hungry because like you skip breakfast and you eat lunch and you're like, man, it's so good. If you try fasting and you go 24 hours without food and you eat for the first time, it's incredible. So even things like, you know, rice cakes or like tuna fish that normally wouldn't sound good, like end up being really, really good, at least in my experience. So what was my diet? I like to do a diet that was like full of low calorie, high volume foods. And so for me, like, I like cabbage quite a bit. I would cook like an entire head of cabbage. I'd put it in like a pressure cooker, okay? And then I also love sausage.
That's what she said.
But I mean, I do. And so I would get like turkey sausage or chicken sausage. And so like I would steam my cabbage, I'd eat my sausage.
What? Pause.
And it would be like a really good meal that would be low in calories. And especially with something like cabbage, I would also consume like an entire bag of butter lettuce. You know, if you look at an entire bag of butter lettuce, it's like literally like 10 calories or something really, really low. And so by eating those low calorie, high volume foods, I was able to basically fill up, but also enjoy what I was eating. I got to give a plug. I'm not in any way sponsored, but Greg Doucette has like several cookbooks now, but they actually taught me how to eat like high volume, low calorie foods that actually tasted good. So I didn't feel like I was missing out, and I didn't have to have like cheat meals, because like for pizza, for example, I get a low calorie flatbread, I'd get some pizza sauce, I'd get fat-free mozzarella and turkey pepperoni, and I would eat pepperoni pizza. And so it wasn't like I was missing out. It made it really easy for me to stay true to my diet, okay? And I'm sure this is gonna stir up some of you guys that are so God blessed passionate about certain things. But guys, don't tell anybody, but I consume artificial sweeteners. Oh my God, that causes cancer and you're so bad for you. I mean, you guys can just click off the video right now, guys, okay? I'm not gonna go on a tangent, I'm not gonna go on hot take kink here, but like, so if you look at actually like the WHO recommendations when it comes to things like artificial sweeteners, particularly aspartame, is now a category 2B, which means it's possibly carcinogenic, okay? Do you know what like a category 1 known carcinogen is? Tobacco, alcohol, and UV light. And so if you are going outside and not wearing sunscreen, that is highly more potentially carcinogenic than artificial sweeteners. I'm not saying artificial sweeteners are good for you. I'm not saying they're healthy. I am saying I personally think they get blown out of proportion, guys. For me, I really like orange soda. And so I had a little soda stream and I got a little like calorie-free orange crush, like little squirty thing. I'll try to put up a picture up here. And I would make my soda stream and I would drink it at night. So I would be drinking orange soda and eating pepperoni pizza and I would enjoy it and it was no calories. Now that I'm not like as aggressively fasting, I do try to limit my artificial sweeteners, guys, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as like some of these guys, which I'm sure in the comments are going to point out based on controversial evidence. And so just do your own research, do what works for you guys. I don't want to get into debates on this, but I do want your comment for the algorithm. But guys, even things like there's a category 2A, which is like the next level of carcinogenic above the artificial sweeteners. It's things like working a night shift, eating red meat, air pollution, hot drinks, wood burning stoves. These types of things are more carcinogenic than things like artificial sweeteners, but people make a bigger deal. Anyways, guys, another story for another day. So what are the supplements that I use? Okay, guys, so one thing that I would drink is yerba mate tea. I got this from Andrew Huberman once again, but there's something that's called a GLP-1 agonist. It's basically how drugs like Ozempic work. Yerba mate tea actually has a natural GLP-1 agonist that helps to suppress your appetite, slow gastric emptying, and so it helps you feel fuller sooner and helps you feel fuller longer, which can help you lose weight if you're. But number two, when you take oral acetyl L-carnitine in high doses, which are the doses that you actually have to take it in order for it to be bioavailable orally, there is some conversion to something that's called TMAO, and that's a possible carcinogen, okay? And so because I was taking this in pretty high doses, I wanted just a more direct route, and so I chose to use IM acetyl L-carnitine, okay? You know, if you're gonna say, Hink, you're not natty, like, dude, I'm fine. Like, I'm fine. I'm sure I couldn't inject this if I was competing in an Olympic sport, but you know, it's just a natural supplement. I was just injecting in a more direct route, but yes, I was injecting. So I talked about my body fat briefly, but guys, here's a picture of Jesse James West, okay? So his body fat, I mean, if you look even when he says 13% body fat, guys, he's freaking peeled, okay? Then obviously 6, he's like absolutely shredded. And so when I say I went from like 20% to about 13, 14%, you know, I just think the reason why I'm making a big deal is people grossly underestimate their body fat percentage, and therefore they underestimate how fat they are, and they underestimate how potentially unhealthy they are. That's the only reason I make a big deal about it. So what are some of the things I noticed? Well, first of all, my significant other, she's the type that's always like, I love you no matter what your size is, whatever. But at night, she would always lay down and use her hands and trace out my abs. And honestly, it seemed to help get her more energized, if you guys get my drift. Also, they say that basically the smaller the plate, the bigger the steak. When I lost fat, not only did I lose the fat pad in my lower pelvic area, but also when my overall like body habitus decreased in size, my downstairs area looked a lot bigger, guys, a lot bigger. Also, when I lost weight, I never thought I was that big. I mean, you guys see my before pictures, and looking back at it now, you know, it is what it is. But a lot of people would comment, they would be like, oh, wow, you lost weight, you look great. And I'm like, oh, wow. But like when you keep hearing that, it kind of makes me think like, oh, well, damn, like, did I look bad before? But, you know, whatever. That's just mental games. That's dysmorphia speaking. For those of you who don't know who I am, I go by the name of Hink. I wear this mask because I'm an actual medical doctor, but I talk a lot about some taboo subjects like men's enlargement and things like that. So that's why I wear the mask. But guys, I appreciate you staying with me. Hopefully this helps somebody. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace and love.